Good evening. I would like to talk about a few things when I talk about the justice reform and prison reform. This is an informative presentation about it, and some things I would like to discuss to the audience and to the people here listening is, I work in an environment in the facility every day where justice and prison reform is seen up close and personal. Um, I work with around, violent offenders, lifelong offenders that's not getting out of prison, and every walk of life. I work around, and some people with a very unique story, some people with a very, you know, accidental story about how they wound up in prison. But I just want to start this thing off by saying this. I brought this scenario up to say this, and let's talk about child support. Okay, so I'm a single father, down on my luck. I don't have a job. I was looking for a job, and I've been jobless for about the last 2 3 months, and I get a statement from child support saying, "Hey, you owe XYZ amount in child support, and if you don't pay it, we're going to lock you up." Um, now I'm a working man, but I just had my hard luck, not finding a job. So what happens is I'm took into court proceedings, and I'm found out, you know, I come up if I can't, fork up, $1,800 in a week, then I'm going to be going to prison. So, hard working man, never had a violent, mark on my record or nothing, but now I'm looking at possibly going to jail because I couldn't have a job, find a job enough to, pay $1,800 in child support. So I start a program, and I don't succeed doing the program that I got, that they put me on, through the things I got to go through to successfully complete the program for not paying child support. And let's just say I'm convicted. I'm convicted, of actual crime for not being able to pay child support, $1,800 child support, and I'm put on probation or parole, and I don't do the things I'm supposed to do, and next thing you know, I'm in prison. I'm sent to do a year to two because I didn't pay child support. Um, wow. So now I'm in a level 1 to 2 tier prison with killers, rapists, murderers, gangbangers. I'm all in a dorm with these same guys that are doing life, and I just couldn't pay $1,800 child support. Never, So I really, as that, as I resonate with that type of situation, I ask this question: is how easy is it to lock up somebody? How simple is it to put somebody in this system? You know, um, I'll talk about a story about a guy who has a kind of a different story about how he wound up in jail, and then it's one of the guys that I actually supervised, throughout the day, and he's an ex-military guy, and he tells me a story about how he was ex-military and how in the '80s, where he had came home from the military, him and a group of guys, a guy, a drug dealer out of Ohio, had recruited them to be his kind of like security team, and among that, they were, young and military minded, and I guess this drug dealer's thing was to have people fear him because his security force was ex-military. So, the guy told me, he said, so he was pretty much living the life, going on trips out of the state, out of the country. He was young, having nice cars and stuff like that, and I guess one day, some things got hectic between the dealer they were working for and a rival crew, and things happened, and they had to provide force for the guy and end up getting themselves in a bad situation. So that wound up giving him a life sentence. And it's crazy, because he's going in close to 28 years. And now I start to think about, as he comes up on his 30, which they say 30 to life, as he comes upon that, it makes me think like, okay, well, when you get to 30 to life, how much have you experienced in 30 years? Like, I think of me age 1 to 20. How much I experienced from age 1 to 20. So what I've experienced from age 1 to 20, it's been so much that my 30s, or from 20 to 30, is not going to be the same way because of things I learned from when I was 1 to 20. So I say that to say this, like, I question, after 30 years, I personally think, my opinion-wise, I think they should be given a shot. I think they should be given a shot back at life and back at society, because in psychology, it says between the ages of 18 to 22, you're not the same person. So after 20 years, yeah, I mean, either you're going to get wiser or not, but one of the inmates, he spoke to me and did tell me, he says, well, what the system believes in and what the parole board believes is, after 30 years, you just learn how to manipulate the system. They don't, and I said, so they don't think you got wiser? And he said, no. They believe you've learned in 30 years, only thing you learn to being incarcerated is how to manipulate the system. So I just really, I think it should be, some better rules for justice reform. And I just, I don't like the fact, I look at Meek Mill's case, and in his case, Meek Mill has a thing where he called his first case at 17, 18, and he can't handle parole. So everything he does, he's prosecuted for it and possibly sent to jail. He got sent to jail recently for revving his bike. I don't care how many millions you make, what type of star you are. If you're in the system, all rules apply. So the same rules that apply to me can apply to a millionaire. No matter the big money you got behind you. So he was, and the thing about it, police contact. He revved his motorbike and had contact with the police. And just because he's on probation in the system, they locked him up. And they let him out, but still to this day, if he do something else that involves police contact, they'll lock him back up. I really think it should be some better things for this justice system. I really think it should be some better, statutes to how it works and the things we do. I believe it should be a better rehabilitation phase. I believe it should be more steps towards getting that person to be better, other than just locking them up and putting them in an environment where they're introduced to more criminals and criminalistic ways. Because, I mean, you put a person in a box with a bunch of criminals and a place where there's nothing but murderers, rapes, and killers, it's gonna pollute their mind. So, so some of the things I decided to use to end this informative speech is just some examples that I talked about here. I talked about some, the guys that I work around with, and some of the stories that they told me about and things that got them in there. I also talked about the rap artist Meek Mill and his case, and the informative thing about that, and like I said, my biggest thing was the persuasive that I used in the beginning to really get you guys to understand what I'm talking about is, how simple a person that misses a couple child support payments could end up in the same position as a guy who killed and murdered and raped people. So think about that, but that's my speech on justice reform and prison reform. Thank you. My name is Ryan James. Have a good day.